In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, the oceans and the mountains, the birds, the fish, the animals, and the people. God especially loved the people. They were God's special creation, and God loved them the way a mother or father loves their little babies. But then, something terrible happened. Adam and Eve, God's beloved children, made a mistake. They tried to separate themselves from God. They sinned, and it broke God's heart. They had to leave God's perfect garden and try to make it in the world on their own.
But God loved these children too much to let the story end there. God had a plan, a magnificent dream. One day God would get his children back. One day God would make the world their perfect home again. And one day God would wipe away every tear from their eyes. You see, no matter what, in spite of everything, God would love these children with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. And though they would forget God and run from him, deep in their hearts God's children would miss him always and long for him. And so one day God himself would come.
Many years passed and many things happened, but God did not forget his promise to come again. God even sent messengers to remind the people of that promise. One of those messengers was a man named Isaiah.
God has a message for you. You've been stumbling around like people in a dark room. But into that darkness, a bright light will shine. It will chase away all the shadows like the sun breaking through the clouds. A little baby will be born, a royal son. His mom will be a young girl who doesn't even have a husband. His name will be Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. He will be one of King David's children's children, the Prince of Peace. Someone is going to come and rescue you, but it won't be who anyone expects.
But God's people didn't listen to the messengers. Many, many more years passed by. Finally, everything was ready. The moment God had been waiting for was here at last. God was coming to help his children, just as he promised in the beginning. But how would he come? What would he be like? Mountains would have bowed down, seas would have roared, trees would have clapped their hands, but the earth held its breath. And when no one was looking, in the darkness, God came.
God chose a young girl named Mary to help him come into the world. Mary was engaged to be married to a carpenter named Joseph. One day, Mary was doing her chores around the house when suddenly the room was filled with a dazzling light. An angel named Gabriel, one of God's special messengers, appeared to Mary. She was very frightened. An angel never just appeared in her bedroom before.
Mary, don't be scared. God is very, very happy with you. The Lord is with you, and you are blessed. You will have a child, a little boy. He will be God's own son. He is the one that God promised us long ago. He will be named Jesus. Is anything too wonderful for God?
I am God's servant. Whatever God says, I will do. My heart is so excited and I rejoice in God's love. God has done great things for me. Holy is God's name.
Mary was very excited, but her fiancé, Joseph, was not quite as excited as she was. In fact, Joseph was very upset. He was a very good and righteous man, but he didn't feel like he could still get married to Mary. He decided to break up with her. God knew that Joseph was a good man, so God sent Gabriel to talk to Joseph and remind him about how much he loved Mary. While Joseph was sleeping, Gabriel appeared to Joseph in a dream.
Joseph, do not be afraid. Don't be scared to get married to Mary. The baby she will have will be God's own son. He is the son that God promised us long ago. He has come to save the world from sin and sadness.
This is amazing beyond words. I can't believe this is happening. I will care for Mary and the baby as God asks.
And so, when he woke up, Joseph did what God asked him to do. He and Mary got married, and he loved and cared for her. The baby grew inside Mary, and she was very happy. But before the baby could be born, the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus ordered that there should be a census, and everyone should be counted and registered in their hometown.
What Caesar Augustus said was law. Because Joseph was a descendant of David, he had to go back to his hometown of Bethlehem to be registered. By this time, Mary was very pregnant. It was a hard trip, but she rode on a donkey. This happened over and over wherever they looked. They began to get worried. Mary could have the baby any time now, and they didn't want to be left on the street. Finally, one innkeeper looked at how pregnant Mary was and took pity on them.
I'm sorry that I have no rooms, but I do have a stable behind my house. It's not very fancy, but it's clean and warm. You could stay there.
Thank you for your hospitality. You are very kind. We will be happy to stay in your stable.
So Mary and Joseph settled into the stable. There were many animals already staying there, but the animals knew that God's baby would soon be born, and they were happy to share their space.
And so it was that there in the stable, surrounded by animals in the quiet of the night, God gave the world his wonderful gift. The baby that would change the world was born, God's baby son.
Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm. They made a soft bed of straw and used the animal's feeding trough as his cradle.
Mary and Joseph named the baby Jesus Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. And they gazed in wonder at God's great gift, wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger.
Who were the first to cry Noel? We animals, Who were the first to welcome the Christ child? We animals.
We were the first to see the baby Jesus. He was born in our stable. We're so happy.
Also very excited. Finally, the time had come for God's plan to save his children, and everything was going wonderfully. God was so excited that a new star burst forth in the heavens above the stable. It blazed in the night and made all the other stars pale beside it.
God just couldn't keep the good news to himself. God had been waiting all these long years for this moment, and now he wanted the whole world to know about this wonderful baby. God knew that announcing Jesus' birth was a job for Gabriel, his special messenger. But where did God send Gabriel? To the kings and queens? To the mansions and palaces? Nope. God sent Gabriel out to a lonely field. In that field were some poor shepherds looking after their flocks of sheep. They were startled when suddenly the night sky was filled with light.
Don't be afraid. I come with wonderful news from God. In David's town, Bethlehem, God's son was born. He's come to save the world. But don't take my word for it. Go and see yourselves. He's wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger.
Suddenly, Gabriel was joined by a great big choir of angels in the sky. They were all very happy.
could this be? It seems too good to be true. Let's get to Bethlehem and see. If it's true, this is a very special day indeed.
So the shepherds rushed off to find the baby Jesus. When they arrived at the stable, they were amazed to find it was just as Gabriel had said. The stable was filled with animals, Mary and Joseph, and in the very middle of it all, the baby Jesus was sleeping soundly in his mother's arms.
This is Jesus, the child we have all been waiting for.
The shepherds were speechless. They knelt down on the dirt floor. They had heard about this promised child, heaven's son, the maker of the stars, and now he was here, a beautiful baby boy. This baby would be like the bright star shining in the sky. He would be a light that would light up the whole world, chasing away the darkness.
The shepherds went out from the stable singing God's praises. They shared the good news of the baby with everyone they met.
Mary and Joseph were very happy. They were proud of this baby boy and filled with excitement for all of the wonderful things he would do in his life. But most importantly, God was very happy. Finally, his plan was beginning. God had never stopped loving all of creation with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love.
The excitement wasn't just limited to Bethlehem. Far, far away, 3 clever men called Magi saw the beautiful star shining in the sky. They knew that it was a sign that the promised baby had been born. They had all been waiting for this star. So the Magi set out to find the baby. They followed the star in the sky. They followed it across endless deserts, up steep, steep mountains, down into deep, deep valleys, through raging rivers, over grassy plains, night and day and night.
Finally, at long last, they reached Bethlehem and found Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, the baby king. They knelt before him and offered him the gifts they had brought. They showed him that the rest of the world was eager to welcome this promised king.
We have traveled over great distances, and here, we are here.
The time has come at last.
We have journeyed far and brought our greatest gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, to show this child just how special we think he is.
The journey that had begun centuries before in God's perfect garden had led these 3 wise men here, to a little town, to a little house, to a little child, to the king that God had promised the world all those years before.
But this child was a new kind of king. Though he was the Prince of Heaven, he had become poor. Though he was the mighty God, he had become a helpless baby. This king hadn't come to be the boss. He had come to be a servant.
Many amazing things were about to happen in the years to come, but that's a story for another time.
On that first night, it all came down to a happy father and a proud mother, surrounded by animals in a stable, loving a perfect, beautiful little boy.
Let's all join in with Mary and Joseph, the shepherds and animals, the angels, magi, and God the Creator in welcoming this baby into our world.
May the peace of the Lord always be with you.
And also with you.
Peace to you. Peace to you. Peace to you. Peace to you.